Swinburne University of Technology.
The academic procession is about to enter the hall. Would you please stand? Please remain standing for the national anthem. The words are on the inside back cover of your program. Please be seated. It is my pleasure to introduce the presiding officer of today's ceremony, Mr. Bill Scales AO, Chancellor of Swinburne University of Technology.
Members of the University Council, members of staff, distinguished guests, importantly graduates, ladies and gentlemen. It is with great pleasure that I welcome every one of you here to this graduation and award conferral ceremony, which acknowledges the achievements of so many of you and which represents such an important and significant step in your process of lifelong learning. As a mark of respect to Australia's Indigenous people, Swinburne University of Technology acknowledges the Wurundjeri people as the traditional custodians of the land where we now meet for this most important ceremony. On the occasion of this ceremony, the Council and staff wish to share their pride and their congratulations with the graduates on their achievement. For all of us, this ceremony is a very special occasion. For the graduates, it means the culmination of years of study, hard work and achievement. For the parents, families and friends of the graduates, it means that all the sacrifices which you have made and all of the support which you have provided to our graduates here tonight has now finally been rewarded. I'm sure that you, just like us, feel a great sense of pride and happiness in seeing your friend or your family member succeed in this most significant way. We're also very pleased, of course, that so many of you have been able to attend this most important celebration. For the teaching and administrative staff of the university, there is enormous satisfaction in seeing our students successfully complete their studies. But it's also an important occasion for the university. Swinburne prides itself in the quality of the teaching and learning which it provides. It also prides itself in the quality of the research which is done by people which you will acknowledge tonight, those that are receiving their PhDs for what you will recognise is simply outstanding research. This wonderful celebration also gives public recognition of Swinburne's ongoing commitment to provide our students with a range of high-quality educational qualifications. These qualifications will assist them in making an ongoing contribution to their chosen profession, but most importantly for us at Swinburne, because of our values, it will also enable you to make an outstanding contribution to your community. Swinburne is committed to being a nationally and an internationally recognised institution where our programs are relevant to the world community as well as to Australia. We do this for a number of reasons. We're committed to this because this goal is increasingly important to our graduates, Graduates sitting here tonight, you will know, some of you will know anyway, that you will find yourselves working for international organisations. Many of you will establish international careers. Most of you will establish wonderfully successful international careers. And that's why Swinburne wants to make sure that our institution, your university, is respected worldwide. We're also respected worldwide for our scholarship. For the first time this year, Swinburne was rated amongst the top 500 universities in the world. And let's remember there are well over 12,000 universities worldwide. So you are part of a prestigious institution that is not only recognised for its teaching and its learning, but as you will learn tonight, also because of its high quality research. I now call upon Professor Susan Moore of the Faculty of Life and Social Sciences, Swinburne University of Technology, to address tonight's graduates.
Thank you. Well, good evening, everybody, and congratulations to all the graduands. You've really achieved something worthwhile tonight, or over the last few years, and I think it's more than just a job ticket, and it's more even than mastery of your subject matter. I'm going to just say a few things about some of the value-added extras that your degree, I believe, has helped you to develop, and say something about how you might use those skills in the future. The first thing that comes to my mind is that I believe that you've learned persistence in achieving a goal. You've learned how to overcome obstacles in the way of that goal, and sometimes how to reshape your goals in response to new situations. And I imagine that there were likely times when you wanted to give up. In fact, a recent study of 35,000 Australian undergraduates found that almost 1/3 of the first and third year students surveyed seriously considered quitting their course at some times. And I imagine that of you doctoral students, it's probably more like 100%. Recent federal government figures indicate that nearly 20% of students do drop out in their first year, and while some of them come back later or transfer to a different degree or different university, a significant proportion feel that they just can't hack it for whatever reason. And I guarantee that for almost all of you, there was at least a moment when you thought that too. I can't hack this any longer. Maybe it was because of financial pressures, maybe it was stresses in your relationships or poor health, maybe the work was harder than you expected, perhaps not as interesting as you expected, perhaps there were other distractions. But you didn't give in to those stresses, did you? You overcame the obstacles and you persisted toward a goal. You modified and you changed your goals as new information came to hand, sometimes towards more ambitious outcomes, sometimes limiting your ambitions to fit in with realities of the moment. But the great thing about all this is, if you've done it once, if you've persisted in such a goal, you can do it again in other contexts. Perhaps consciously, perhaps without even realising it, you've developed strategies that enable you to hang in there when setbacks occur and to emerge successfully. Another really important thing you've learned is how to, at least occasionally anyway, forsake short-term pleasures for long-term outcomes. Now, we don't want to do this all the time, but we do know that one of the best predictors of success is the ability to do what psychologists call delay gratification. You put off going to the pub until after the exams, you limit the time that you spent on Facebook during semester, you go somewhere you go without something you want now in order to do something that will contribute to a greater reward in the future. And the interesting thing about this kind of self-restraint is that you often come to enjoy researching the essay topic, reading the difficult book, learning the new skill, so much so that you want to build those activities into your life from now on. If you give up all your intellectual pursuits completely, you'll miss them. The payoff from the self-restraint that you've learnt may be more than you've expected. It's not been just passing the exam, but maybe loving the subject, or more broadly, loving the intellectual and practical challenges that university and real life present. A third important learning that you must have mastered to be here tonight, is that complex real-life questions rarely have simple answers. Most events in the world are multi-causal, and there's often no one right answer to questions like who is to blame or why did that happen. So you've learned to look at issues in depth and not just accept stereotypes, to think critically and creatively about what's presented in the media, and to ask searching questions. When somebody tells you something like, keep away from those Calathumpians, they eat babies, you know how to say, hang on, how do you know that? You know how to research that topic for yourself. For example, you could go home tonight, I'm sure, and find out who Calathumpians are and why they're called that. You know how to look at several sides of a debate and present your findings coherently. You have the research skills and the presentation strategies to develop an argument on whether Calathumpians should or should not be allowed to have babies, even though this topic's got nothing to do with your actual discipline. Here's another example. When I was in grade 3, my mother told me that I should eat carrots because they were good for your eyes. She was trying to get me to eat boiled carrots. And I told my teacher at school, the lovely Mr. Potter, and he said, no, that's not true, it's a myth. So what was the truth? At that time, I was only in grade 3, I didn't know how to resolve the dilemma of two people I admired telling me two different things. It was a dilemma of relationships as well as a dilemma of fact, as are most real-world problems. But of course, you do know how to resolve that dilemma, and many others like it. You know how to conduct research, and you're attuned to the idea that the answer to that question, are carrots good for your eyes, may not be a straightforward yes or no. I suspect you also have skills in how to present that information to others in clear and persuasive ways, but also ways that are respectful and acknowledging of others' views. In relation to that point, the survey that I mentioned previously said that found that 20% of Australian undergraduates had never made a class presentation, but I feel absolutely sure that that is not the case with any Swinburne graduates. I don't imagine any of you got away with that. Anyway, those are just three of the aspects of the so-called meta-curriculum of the university course: learning about persistence, learning about self-restraint, the ability to research an issue and to deal with complexity. These skills are the basics of real-world problem solving. You can and you will need to apply these to your own life in answering the question, what next? Where do I go to from here? You'll use these skills in your job applications, your career planning, and your lifelong learning. But I actually hope for something a bit more ambitious for you. Can you build on your skills and talents to be part of that group of people in the world who will contribute to improving the way we live and the fairness, lawfulness and kindness in our society? Here's just one big challenge to get you thinking. The demographer Bernard Salt, in last Thursday's Australian, summarised global population predictions to the end of the 21st century, when your grandchildren will be alive, and he also presented predictions for 300 years hence. We currently have 6.5 billion people in the world, and the moderate prediction is that this will rise to about 9 billion by 2075, and it'll stay stable for the next 200 years. Even this conservative scenario is one that implies enormous challenge and change. currently with only $6.5 billion to deal with, there are already huge difficulties. How do we provide clean water, basic health care, education, communication and the like? How will we deal with all this and create orderly, equitable and law-abiding societies for the future with 50% more people? But that's only the moderate scenario. The high growth scenario, for example, if we factor in increased lifespans, that we might all live to 120, for example, these scenarios have the population at the end of the 21st century at 14 billion, more than twice what it is today, and in 300 years a staggering 36 billion. Can the Earth sustain those numbers? Can we live in peace and harmony if resources are stretched to this extent? Well, Bernard Salt's pessimistic conclusion was no. But even more pessimistically, he says we won't have to. Why? And this was his idea, because the 4 horsemen of the apocalypse will intervene to bring humanity back into line. Do you know what those 4 horsemen represent? Pestilence, war, famine and death. Horrible, isn't it? Pestilence, war, famine and death. Well, surely there's a better way. Can't we do better than this with all our education and resources? There has to be a better way of resolving what's going to happen in the next 300 years. And 300 years doesn't seem all that long to me. I've done a little bit of family history research and I feel I can stretch back and touch my ancestors from 300 years back. They're only my grandparents, great-grandparents after all. So I'd hate to see it, well I won't see it, but I'd hate to think of it all finishing in 300 years hence. So there's one of the challenges. The challenge is open to you and your generation. Can you be part of the team that will rein in those 4 horsemen? I'm actually confident that you can because of the skills that you've learned: rationality, persistence, creativity, communication and teamwork, to name just a few. As I conclude, I think back to my own graduation, which was about 40 years ago, a bit more, and I remember the speaker was the Right Honourable R.G. Menzies, an illustrious speaker, but I don't remember a word of what he said. Well, will you remember anything that I said in 40 years? I'm sure you won't remember my name, but hopefully you might remember a little bit of what I said. Here's a summary. 1, you know more than what you think, and 2, be brave, get out there and take up the challenges. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Professor Moore, for your insightful comments to our graduates tonight. I now call upon Mr. Tony Reid, Director, Student Operations, to verify that the graduates listed in the program are in fact eligible to receive their awards. Chancellor.
I have the honour to inform you that in accordance with Statute 13 of Swinburne University of Technology Act, the graduates who will be presented at this ceremony or who have applied to have the award conferred in absentia have fulfilled the conditions prescribed and are entitled to the award of bachelor degree, graduate certificate, graduate diploma, postgraduate diploma, master degree and Doctor of Philosophy as appropriate of Swinburne University of Technology.
Would all graduates please rise for the conferral of awards? Graduates and all here present, by virtue of the authority vested in me by the Council of Swinburne University of Technology, I admit the duly authorised graduates here present and those in absentia to the appropriate awards and all the rights and all the privileges of those awards. Let me be the first to congratulate you. Well done. Please be seated. I now call upon Professor Russell Crawford, the Dean of the Faculty of Life and Social Sciences, to present his graduates.
Chancellor, I have the honour to present to you the graduates on whom you have conferred an award. For the Bachelor of Arts, Sophie Hyoen. Jessica Gale Ernst. Kasha Anna Glazebrook. Elaine Carmel Kamle. Elida Krasnich. Jared Daniel Mitchell. Susan Louise Sheriff. Jacinta Louise Walker. Duncan Wong. For the Bachelor of Arts in Games and Interactivity, Danushka Telan Abesirungun Awadhana. David Kendall Jenkinson. Sonia Corina MacDonald. Sarah Elise Membry. Cameron Lloyd Purbrick. Luka Raspudic. Stephanie Marie Rondos. Pumin Jonathan Santifan Flithax. Xavier Frederick Smith. Cameron Peter Standring. Sebastian Patrick Aaron Wallace. For the Bachelor of Arts in Media and Communications, Adolfo Aldos N. Elson Anko Aranue. Chen Ihoy. Michelle Louise Chuter. Holly May Corns. Yvette Zan Ferguson. Amy Christine Hoskin. Benjamin Zane Ice. Charlotte Angelique Jova. Stephanie Justine Kerr. Timothy Mew McCartney. Neha Minhas. Christopher Thomas Moore. Therese Nguyen. Christopher Edward Plumridge. Lauren Elizabeth Roden. Sean Michael Rogash. Carmen Jessica Scaduto. Carly Ellen Sheehan. Bronte Gray Tanweer. Jessica Ann Torfey. Bryony Peter Williamson. Zi Yang. For the Bachelor of Arts in Psychology and Psychophysiology, Angela Avgerinos. Kalika Nicole Baker. Amy Beth De Silva. Samani Nikashala Dama Talika. Sarah Bridget Loritz. Claire Elise Murray. For the Bachelor of Social Science, Royston Patrick Donoghue. Reese Edwards. Catherine Emma Farrell. Joanna Marie Fernandez. Luke Benjamin Gahan. Michael Everett Hartup. Richard Francis Sladen Hope. Anna Ling Kwan Lee. Elizabeth Lillian Martin. Joshua Luke Mason. Sarah Jane Morehouse. Amanda Julia Owens. Stephanie Claire Pottage. Karen Ann Southgate. For the Bachelor of Social Science in Psychology, Alice Elizabeth Aiken. Kerry Athanasiadis. Laura Elizabeth Bieniak. Chunwai Leon Choing. Tennille Di Lorenzo. Melissa Nicole Elliston. Joanne Fallis. Xavier Paul Gretsch. Melanie Marie Gazowski. Lauren Elizabeth Hahn. Claire Margaret Hayden. Tanya Katie Iris. Elena Kafkalakis. Jatinda Kaur. Caroline Nguyen. Francine Marie Panetta. Nicholas James Smith. Ellen Frances Street. Lauren Michelle Swan. Lisa Angela Tochia. Alicia Teresa Vaccaro. Alexandra Voivodich. Natalie Susanna Horton. For the Bachelor of Arts Honours, Sarah Ashley Barclay. Laura Muna Crawford. Lorraine Cuff. Alice Rose Drew. Richard John Ilias. Jessica Louise Faulkner. Robert Alexander Hoffman. Rachel Jellett. Andrew Jeffrey Johnston. Stephanie Ann McCarr. Matthew Paul Pays. Jessipina Pompey. Tamsin Elizabeth Van Reenen. Zara Tasha Wahid. Jeffrey Richard Charles Waters. Carol May Whitfield. For the Graduate Certificate in Career Development, Diane Leslie Burras. For the Graduate Certificate of Social Science in Family Therapy, Turaj Afshar. For the Graduate Certificate of Social Science in Housing Management and Policy, Elias Madra Akiri. Jacqueline Lee Duncan. Patrick Neil Hensey. Janine Lynette Hosking. Jane Louise Seisland. For the Graduate Diploma of Arts in Commercial Radio, Tansy Louisa Goldsmith. Nicholas Andrew Thompson. For the Graduate Diploma of Arts in Media and Communications, Jade Zoe Bullock. For the Graduate Diploma of Social Science in Housing Management and Policy, Alejandro Espinosa. Michael John Summerhill. For the Graduate Diploma of Social Science in Human Services Counselling, Julia Margaret Brumley. For the Graduate Diploma of Social Science in Technical Communication, Heather Claire Weimer. For the Postgraduate Diploma of Psychology, Lauren Rose Marie Axelson. Antonita Chrysostom. Sue Ellen Heather Cook. Kerry Jia Yi Peng. Daniel Shaw. Legia Maria Yap. For the Master of Arts in Communications, Christopher Michael Keogh. For the Master of Arts in Media and Communications, Sarah Jane Alexander. Bita Riazati. For the Master of Psychology in Clinical Psychology, Nigel Bruce Alexander. Peter Michael Smith. For the Master of Psychology in Counselling Psychology, Hema Sudhashni Navaratnam. Chancellor, I have the honour to present to you the graduates on whom you have conferred the degree of doctorate. Celeste Marie Benetti. The title of Dr. Benetti's thesis is Psychological Distress in New and Expecting Parents, the Role of Attachment, Self-Concept and Maladaptive Perfectionism. This thesis aimed to expand the knowledge of psychological distress experienced during the transition to parenthood by comparing men and women of different childbearing status, by measuring levels of anxiety and obsessive-compulsive symptoms in addition to levels of depression, and by examining attachment theory, self-concept and perfectionism as predictors of distress. Results highlighted the important role of attachment in the experience of psychological distress during transition to parenthood. This thesis has also shown that predictors of this psychological distress differed between pregnant women and other participants, despite there being no significant differences in overall levels of distress. This supports the need for future research to develop a better understanding of psychological distress in childbearing samples, particularly with antenatal samples. There also remains a need to adequately address these issues in men whom are difficult to assess while they are making this transition. Treatment implications of this study include consideration of experiences and opportunities in an individual's current romantic relationship as a way of fostering a more secure attachment system. Chancellor, I present to you Dr. Celeste Marie Benetti for the degree of Doctor of Psychology in Clinical Psychology. Chancellor, I have the honour to present to you the next graduate on whom you have conferred the degree of doctorate, Jane Elizabeth Dunkley. The title of Dr. Dunkley's thesis is Understanding Adaptation to First Episode Psychosis, Trauma and Growth Responses. Dr. Dunkley's research involved a phenomenological analysis of the experience of first episode psychosis. Contrary to previous work, the traumatic impact of psychosis was shown to extend beyond the acute period, impacting on the person's sense of identity, relationships, and perception of life. Recovery was not restricted to restoration of functioning, but could involve transformative, constructive changes in the sense of self and the quality of relationships. A temporal model was developed, incorporating the restorative and constructive components of recovery and recognising the clinical value of utilising the self-awareness and meaning-making engaged in by people with first episode psychosis. Chancellor, I present to you Dr. Jane Elizabeth Dunkley for the degree of Doctor of Psychology in Clinical Psychology. Chancellor, I have the honour to present to you the next graduate on whom you have conferred the degree of doctorate, Tamara Rachel Wolin. The title of Dr. Wollin's thesis is The Effect Licit and Illicit Drugs Have on Trauma Processing and Memory. Preliminary research suggests that depressant drugs such as alcohol may represent a protective factor against developing post-traumatic stress disorder, and stimulant drugs such as methamphetamine and MDMA a risk factor for the development of post-traumatic stress disorder. Based on this preliminary research, Dr. Wollin's thesis explored the effect of alcohol, methamphetamine and MDMA had on trauma processing and memory. The study aimed to explore whether alcohol intoxication would reduce memory processing and memory of trauma-related stimuli, while methamphetamine and MDMA would enhance processing and memory of such stimuli. The study indicates that alcohol is a significant protective factor against later developing post-traumatic stress disorder after exposed to a trauma. Whilst the trends in the data indicate that methamphetamine may pose a risk for later developing post-traumatic stress disorder, the low power levels of the samples were unable to confirm if these effects were significant. The effect MDMA has on the risk of later developing post-traumatic stress disorder is mixed and appears to have a minimal impact. Chancellor, I present to you Dr. Tamara Rachel Wolin for the degree of Doctor of Psychology in Clinical Psychology. Chancellor, I have the honour to present to you the next graduate on whom you have conferred the degree of doctorate, Vicky Jean Trethowan. The title of Dr. Trethowan's thesis is School Crisis Management of the 21st Century, an examination of school counsellors' preparedness and implications for training. Critical incidents, disasters and emergencies impact on school populations in Australia on a daily basis. Such traumatic events constitute serious threat, loss and devastation. Children and adolescents exposed to trauma experience reactions that require a caring and supportive school environment, including assistance from school psychologists and social workers. Dr. Trethowan's thesis sought to examine the crisis management role and training of school psychologists and social workers working in Victorian government schools. In addition, the thesis looked at the development of a crisis management model that could be used to guide and inform training of school psychologists and social workers for this aspect of their professional role. Results showed that the majority of school psychologists and social workers sampled had been required to respond to critical incidents such as death, suicide, motor vehicle accidents and sexual assaults. Most reported that schools called on them for support. Additionally, school psychologists and social workers perceived that the schools were happy with their support, but indicated that they see the need to know more about school crisis management. Further results from the study demonstrated support for the development of a new comprehensive crisis management model that could inform school crisis management practices and crisis management training. Chancellor, I present to you Dr. Vicky Jean Trethowan for the degree of Doctor of Psychology in Counselling Psychology. Chancellor, I have the honour to present to you the graduates on whom you have conferred the degree of Doctor of Philosophy. Nicola Brackerts. The title of Dr. Brackert's thesis is Reconciling Efficiency and Democracy, the Challenges at the Local Government Level. Dr. Brackert's thesis investigates policy implementation in local government in the state of Victoria, Australia. There are tensions between the requirements that councils implement the policies and objectives of the state and federal governments, which frequently aim to increase efficiency, and the obligation to uphold the integrity of the democratic processes necessary to fulfil the local mandate and responsibilities to constituents. The thesis argues that the policy tools for reform used by the state government were chosen ostensibly to hold local government more accountable and privilege local knowledge, but in effect served to shore up the state government's legitimacy while failing to contribute substantially to local governance. Chancellor, I present to you Dr. Nicola Brackertz for the degree of Doctor of Philosophy. Chancellor, I have the honour to present to you the next graduate on whom you have conferred the degree of Doctor of Philosophy, Gina Eckermans. The title of Dr. Eckermans' thesis is Exploring the Emotional Intelligence Construct, a Cross-Cultural Investigation. The ability of psychological tests designed in one country to be used in other countries is influenced by culture. Cultural value dimension differences such as individualism, collectivism, or power distance could introduce cultural bias into Western emotional intelligence measures when applied in non-Western environments. The research aimed to differentiate cultural bias from true construct variance in a self-report measure of emotional intelligence. The Swinburne University Emotional Intelligence Test, or SUEIT, in the workplace. A series of structural equation modelling techniques were used to investigate construct, method and item bias in data from 2 Western, i.e. USA, New Zealand, and 4 non-Western countries, Italy, South Africa, white and non-white, and Sri Lanka. Evidence of method and item bias emerged, suggesting that it may be necessary to adapt the SUEIT for future cross-cultural use in non-Western countries. Chancellor, I present to you Dr. Gina Eckermans for the degree of Doctor of Philosophy. Chancellor, I have the honour to present to you the next graduate on whom you have conferred the degree of Doctor of Philosophy, Melinda Lee Jackson. The title of Dr. Jackson's thesis is The Effects of Sleep Deprivation on Simulated Driving, Neurocognitive Functioning and Brain Activity in Professional Drivers. Sleepiness contributes to a large proportion of heavy vehicle accidents each year. Dr. Jackson's thesis aimed to determine the effects of one night of sleep deprivation and D-amphetamine on driving-related processes in professional drivers. Measures of driving-related performance on both simulated driving and simple neurocognitive tasks were negatively affected by sleep loss. Event-related potential and functional MRI findings suggest that these sleep-related behavioural effects are caused by changes in neural processing and neural recruitment. D-amphetamine improved subjective measures of sleepiness in sleep-deprived drivers, but had little effect on performance. These findings highlight the importance of educating the driving public about the dangers of driving when sleepy. Chancellor, I present to you Dr. Melinda Lee Jackson for the degree of Doctor of Philosophy. Chancellor, I have the honour to present to you the next graduate on whom you have conferred the degree of Doctor of Philosophy, Anthony Hamilton Lamb. The title of Dr. Lamb's thesis is Of Measures and Men, the Victorian Country Party 1917 to 43. This thesis is a study of the Victorian Country Party between the Great War and World War II. Unlike in other states of Australia, the Country Party was a dominant player in Victorian politics. The party was often in alliance with the Australian Labor Party and had a fraught relationship with the Nationalist Party and its successor, the United Australia Party. The Country Party government of Albert Dunstan, 1935 to 1945, provided much-needed administrative stability, but its financial and policy inactivity affected the course of Victorian politics and economics for decades. Chancellor, I present to you Dr. Anthony Hamilton Lamb for the degree of Doctor of Philosophy. Chancellor, the next graduate is a member of the Faculty of Engineering and Industrial Sciences, and as such I invite my friend and colleague, the Dean of the Faculty, Professor John Bynan, to present the candidate.
Chancellor, I have the honour to present to you the next graduate on whom you have conferred the degree of Doctor of Philosophy, Julia Mary Lambourne. The title of Dr. Lambourne's thesis is Modelling Landfill Degradation Behaviour. Modern tips are now sophisticated bioreactors from which waste can be converted into energy. The total amount of gases, such as methane, which can be usefully extracted is very important, as is their rate of production. Dr. Lambourne has compared and contrasted various models which were developed to predict gas generation from landfills, including, for the first time, the use of large-scale landfill data. She argues that the most scientifically sound of these models are impractical and too complex to be used in the real world. Therefore, a balance needs to be made between how correct a model is and how practical it is. Chancellor, I present to you Dr. Julia Mary Lambourne for the degree of Doctor of Philosophy.
Chancellor, I have the honour to present to you the next graduate on whom you have conferred the degree of Doctor of Philosophy, Rosemary June Panelli. The title of Dr. Panelli's thesis is The First Seizure Clinic, Psychosocial Characteristics of Patients and the Effect of Epilepsy Support Program. The occurrence of a seizure has major impacts on a person's psychosocial functioning. Dr. Panelli measured psychosocial characteristics over 12 months in people who experienced a possible first seizure. This unique data set provided important new information, particularly related to anxiety and depression levels relevant to the diagnosis and management of this patient group. The work also evaluated the effect of peer support program using a randomised control trial. This rigorous trial design has been rarely applied to measure the effect of such non-medical interventions. Results demonstrated that the support worker was highly valued as the most important information source. Chancellor, I present to you Dr. Rosemary June Panelli for the degree of Doctor of Philosophy. Chancellor, I have the honour to present to you the next graduate on whom you have conferred the degree of Doctor of Philosophy, Helena Marie Richardson. The title of Dr. Richardson's thesis is An Exploration of Dissociation in Australia, Measurement Issues, Predictors and Phenomenology. This project generated insights into the three aspects of dissociation. First, taxometric analyses of questionnaire responses challenged the assumption that normal and pathological dissociation are distinct concepts. Second, contrary to most theoretical models, dissociativity was shown in modelling analyses to be both related to both childhood trauma and adult personality factors. Third, qualitative interviews revealed that dissociation operates in adaptive and pathological ways for people experiencing clinical levels of dissociation. Overall, the project raises novel questions about the nature of dissociation and has both theoretical and clinical implications. Chancellor, I present to you Dr. Helen Marie Richardson for the degree of Doctor of Philosophy. Chancellor, I have the honour to present to you the next graduate on whom you have conferred the degree of Doctor of Philosophy, Mark Daniel Zeman. The title of Dr. Zeman's thesis is Glutaredoxin Family Genes in Plant Development. The ROXY1 gene of Arabidopsis encodes a plant-specific CC-type glutaredoxin. While glutaredoxins are generally associated with cell redox homeostasis, evidence so far demonstrates a role for ROXY1 in the coordination of flower development. This thesis focuses on the molecular functioning of ROXY1, specifically in determining the peptide domains required for its function and the targets of its hypothesized oxidoreductase activity. In this work, the C-terminal region of ROXY1 was found to be crucial for in vivo functioning and for mediating protein interactions with transcription factors important for flower development. This C-terminal region of ROXY1 is evolutionarily conserved in most CT-type glutaredoxins, and the mechanism uncovered here may be utilised in other biological functions, including pathogen defence and diurnal rhythm control. Data described in this thesis have been published in the high-quality international peer-reviewed journals The Plant Cell and Genome Biology and Evolution. Chancellor, I present to you Mark Daniel Zeman for the degree of Doctor of Philosophy. Chancellor, that concludes the awards for the Faculty of Life and Social Sciences. I now call upon Mr. Richard Hope, who graduated today with the Bachelor of Social Science, to speak on behalf of the graduates.
Chancellor, members of the University Council, distinguished guests, fellow graduates, ladies and gentlemen. I'd firstly like to thank Swinburne for giving me this opportunity to thank and acknowledge those people who have helped all of us, the students, achieve what we have here today. On behalf of the students graduating today, I'd like to thank the staff of the university for the friendly assistance, support and guidance they have provided us throughout our years of study. We appreciate all you've done for us. While the experience of studying at Swinburne may have at times been challenging, it has also been very enjoyable, rewarding and memorable. We will all take with us skills and knowledge that will assist us in our future endeavours. For all of us, this is a very proud moment and something we have worked towards for a very long time. We are very proud to be here in front of you now, celebrating our success. I'd now like to take this opportunity to thank, most importantly, all of our family and friends for their support during our studies. You've been there from the beginning. You've shared the same goals and kept us focused. So we thank you, and we are very honoured to have you here sharing this moment with us. And finally, may we have every success in whatever we do now, whether it be developing a career or continuing with our studies. Whatever we go on to do, I'm sure the knowledge, experience and friendships we've gained during our studies will help us whichever path we choose. Well done and good luck.
And thank you very much, Richard. To Swinburne graduates, I know that today is the culmination of years of hard work and that during this time you've had the encouragement and help of family and friends, so many, of course, that are here tonight to support you on this wonderful occasion. On yours and the university's behalf, I do wish to thank them most sincerely. We know that these graduates could not have achieved what they have achieved without your support. So on behalf of the university, can I most sincerely thank every one of you for all of the support that you've provided to all of our graduates tonight. Can I particularly say how thankful we are for those who have supported our PhD graduates. I mean, this is a prodigious effort to be able to produce a PhD thesis. And for those of you who have supported our graduates right the way through that process, can I say from the bottom of my heart, thank you. Because not only have you supported them, you have supported the development of the ongoing knowledge bank that not only that Australia has, but in fact that the world has. You heard tonight about the quality of this research. You also have a part to play in the quality of that research. So on behalf of the university, can I thank all of the family, all of the friends that are here tonight that have supported all of our graduates, but in particular who have supported our PhD graduates through those hard, long years of getting their doctorate. Thank you very much. Graduates, I'm now going to ask you, if you wouldn't mind, just standing up. I want you to turn and face your family and friends and join with me in loudly applauding them for all of the support they have given you. Please join me. Thank you, graduates. Please resume your seats. Graduates, on your behalf, I think it would be appropriate if I also took this opportunity to thank the teaching and administrative staff for their contribution to your education here at Swinburne. Could I ask all of the academic and administrative staff to please rise? Please join me in thanking them. Very much. Graduates, I do trust that you will consider that this is the beginning of a lifelong association with us here at Swinburne. Education is a continuing process, and I do hope that many of you will return to Swinburne to further your studies. I would also encourage you to participate in the activities of the Swinburne Alumni Association. The Alumni Association has groups in many parts of the world. So even if you're leaving us here in Melbourne, that does not mean you have to leave us completely, because you will be able to participate in the operations of the Swinburne Alumni Association no matter where you are in the world. Ladies and gentlemen, on behalf of all members of Swinburne, I offer our congratulations to all who have received an award tonight. Well done, congratulations. We're incredibly proud of you. Well done. Ladies and gentlemen, that concludes the formal part of this Swinburne graduation and award ceremony. Thank you very much for being with us tonight.
On behalf of the members of Council and the university community, I would invite you to join us for refreshments, which will be served in the chandelier room. Would you now please stand while the official party, academic procession and procession of graduates leaves the hall.
Swinburne University of Technology.